and being childish. Thank you.
Childlike is being more connected in a positive way to the synchronicity of your true higher mind. Childish is more of an idea of selfishness, the idea of just focusing on yourself with the idea of that you're not getting what you need. So you're acting out. There's a more negative context to the concept of childishness in not allowing yourself to be in the flow of your connection with all that is. Whereas childlike is an innocence that is profound and wise.
Are there warning signs of, the difference between being childish? Is childish immature? Is it, how can one
Yes, in a sense.
recognize? Is the idea of urgency that something has to happen, is that an indication of childishness?
It can be. It depends on how it's expressed when you use the term childishness. So again, it depends on how it's expressed. You can express anxiety without necessarily being childish. But the idea simply goes back to what we have discussed before. If you're really honest with yourself, you can tell the difference between excitement and anxiety. And things that come from anxiety, things that come from fear-based beliefs can sometimes allow you to express yourselves in childish ways, as opposed to childlike ways. So the idea is that childlike is simply a more positive expression of innocence and connection. Childish is simply the result of anxiety that is expressed in a way that allows a person to feel as if they are disconnected, feel like they're not getting what they need, feel like they're not being nurtured, feel like they're not being supported, and it's expressed in what you have referred to as an immature fashion.
Hello.
Good day.
Good day, dear Bashar. Good day, dear Errol. I thank you wholeheartedly for this great opportunity, for this interaction, for what you are doing. You basically are teaching us how to become real human beings, how to operate in 4D4 density, helping adjust human minds to the cosmic time.
Yes, yes.
Dear Bashar, do I understand correctly that it was Enlil who incarnated, who was born on March 19th in the year 4 AD, who was conceived via in vitro, and who took on the Christ consciousness in order to fix a timeline, in order to liberate people from religion, really?
To some degree, although you're kind of wrapping it in colloquialisms or a little bit of an outdated idea, but essentially, yes, if that's the way you wish to interpret it, that's fine.
Yeah, I wish to understand it to in a most pure way, like not altered by false definitions, because I understand that you are really liberating us from outdated definitions.
Well, you're liberating yourselves. That's the whole point of providing new definitions for you, is that we're not liberating you, but we're giving you the tools by which you can liberate yourselves and be who you truly are. And that's really more of a modern interpretation of any of those stories that you're talking about. Because even that goes back all the way through different masters who are always telling all of you, I'm not doing it to you, I'm not doing it for you. You are doing it yourself. If you have a strong belief system that understands how this works, you will heal yourselves. You will center yourselves. You will expand yourselves. I'm just here reminding you that you can do that and being an example for you that this is a reality you can choose. So when you talk about the idea of liberating, it's not something I'm doing for you. I'm giving you the tools and the understanding for you to do it for yourself. And that's been true of every single being that you might consider having shared this kind of information throughout your history.
Thank you, Bashar. So in that sense, as a permission slip, when will then the bones of Jesus be discovered in the tomb of Pontius Pilate in Rome?
Well, you're a little off kilter there, but I can't tell you that anyway, no matter how you're asking the question. It's not the appropriate timing to discuss something like that.
Thank you. Thank you. When focusing in on the moon station, I saw a bodysuit that was purple and turquoise, and the area of great interest was the ability to harmonize altered DNA from a distance with frequencies using the quantum potential. Another area of expertise in the station that I saw was the monitoring of Earth changes, which enables then these civilizations to come and calm down volcanoes and that sort of thing. Could you please tell me about relevant incarnations of mine and guide me here a little bit through that shit?
You do understand that reincarnation, while it can be created as an experience, is not actually mechanically happening, yes?
Yes, yes.
So when you say incarnations of mine, that makes no sense from our perspective, because you are you, and other people that you may be tapping into energetically to download information and experience from them, but who exist simultaneously with you are not your incarnations.
I understand, but understood maybe as branches of the tree, if the oversoul is a tree and if each incarnation is a branch.
Yes, but then you're talking from the oversoul perspective. So you have to be clear about what you are meaning when you say my incarnations. Are you coming from the oversoul level and saying my incarnations? Because you can't say that from the individual level.
Thank you. Yes, I didn't make myself clear. I meant from the oversoul perspective.
All right. One moment. Well, some of those branches are what you've been discussing to some degree, in the sense of having branches at different times when there are on your planet clear representations of expanded beings. You call them sometimes ascended masters or teachers. So you have many connections to other people who exist in those times who have exposure to some of those ascended masters, so that you can start downloading that information, as you say, along many different branches to inform you in this life as to how to move forward energetically.
Thank you. And the colors deep green and bright turquoise appear synchronistically to me. Are these colors connected to my hybrid children?
Yes, but more specifically, they're connected both to the idea of connections you have to individuals in Lemuria, the deep green, and also Atlantis, the turquoise.
Thank you.
All right?
Yes, thank you. And so I wanted to ask you, since the inner reflective surface of the higher mind is within the spirit, is each and every spirit then residing within the one that is all? And is then the one that is all residing within us the way we reside within the one that is all?
It's all holographic. Yes, there is no outside to it.
Into and dodecahedron and inside of the icosahedron into infinity, right?
Well, yes, as far as you understand infinity.
Okay.
As far as it can be expressed in your reality.
Because there is no really space, as you say, like distance, it is just frequency, right?
It's all just resonance, it's all just frequency. Physical reality, in a sense, is just a projection of consciousness, different patterns of frequencies.
Yes. I wanted to ask.
Does that help?
Yes, definitely. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
I wanted to ask you, on March 20th, 2026, the planets in the solar system will align for entire 3 years in a way that will affect the consciousness on Earth. Could you be so kind and elaborate a bit?
It's not that it affects it, it's that it reflects it. Remember, physical reality is just a reflection. It's not a causation. It's a reflection of changes in the consciousness. And at that time frame, that's a reflection of the beginning of the window of open contact.
Yes, that's what I thought. That's why I felt. So that's how it is connected to the information that is found then in the Giza Plateau, that's waiting really in the Giza Plateau.
Well, yes, although remember that things in the Giza Plateau are not in any way, shape, or form in the shape that they used to be thousands of years ago. So it's a little bit damaged and may not be fully capable of reflecting all of the energy. But yes, there are some things there that will still be capable of reflecting that idea, that reflection of alignment at that time, that can open the doors to more contact.
So there is under the plateau, there is the temple of King Khufu the First, and underneath the temple there is the tomb, his tomb, yes?
No, not in the way you're thinking of it. There are chambers there that contain information, but not in the way you're describing.
So these rooms, yes, these chambers, they're interconnected with Giza, Romania, Iraq, these halls of records, and they contain advanced...
Energetically, not physically.
Oh. Okay. But when you enter one, then whoever is in the other room, they know that somebody entered the other one, right?
Vibrationally, you can, if you're sensitive enough to pick that up, yes. Because that is part of a communication system that was global at the time. But again, remember, it's fallen into some degree of disrepair, so it may not be as efficient as it used to be.
Okay, I understand. And so since everything is here now, and truly knowing that, integrating that, I can then focus on the consciousness of the Anu heads that we become and are, and access that information that flows from that perspective, if relevant to this theme, then, yes?
If relevant, yes, of course you can.
Thank you. And then one copy of the Ark of the Covenant, it resides in Ethiopia. Yes. Does it fit into the box in the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid?
It does.
Okay. And the other one, is it in Jerusalem?
Not going to tell you that.
Okay, thank you. And right. So, Bashar, I thank you for your time, for
thank you
wholeheartedly
for your time,
for everything that you're doing for us.
It is again our passion and our pleasure And we thank you for everything that you do for yourselves.
Thank you.
Good day.
Good day.
Hello, Bashar. Good day to you. My name is Aaron, and my dream currently locates me in Germany. Consciously breathing is an important aspect of frequency management and shifting to one's preferred reality. I wonder, how does a quasi-physical being such as yourself and non-physical beings experience breath? Thank you.
It's more the idea of the fluctuation of vibrations of energy within the cosmos. That can be experienced similarly to the idea of the in and out patterns of breath, an ebbing and flowing of energy.
And what does that ebbing and flowing represent?
Well, it can represent many things depending upon how you relate to it, how you interpret it, how you channel it through yourself. But in general, it represents the idea of the fluctuations of patterns of energy and frequencies within the collective consciousness of all that is, that represent the shifts between the idea of polarities, of positive and negative, and going through the balance point in the center. It's like experiencing the idea of the fluctuations that give rise to the ability to experience the idea of positive or negative energies, mechanically speaking. But they always flow through the center point. That's why you have the infinity symbol, the idea of positive, negative, but they always go through the center point, the balance point in the Trinity of the structure of existence. But that's the ebb and flow you're experiencing. It's not being experienced necessarily all at once. It's still being experienced in a polarized way by going from one side to the other. But by being in the balance point, you can experience it in a balanced way for yourself, even though you may still feel the ebb and flow of that energy. It's going through you in a way that is more integrated.
Hi, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Thank you so much. I'm very grateful to be able to talk with you today.
As are we to you.
So I have a few questions.
Yes.
The first one is that I've always been very passionate throughout my life about the Maya or Mayab. I've spent a lot of time researching it, visiting the places, their temples. Can you tell us more about what star system they're from and what their mission is here on Earth?
Well, the idea of a so-called mission is simply their exploration and discovery of different planets that are capable of supporting their kind of life, exploring, learning, setting up bases so they can continue to explore and learn the specific nature of each world, which is very important to them to understand. It provides them a bigger picture of the universe and how it expresses itself on different planetary systems, so on and so forth. The idea is I am not really allowed at this time to talk about the origin point.
Okay. Can you tell us why they left?
Things were changing on the planet environmentally in many different ways, energetically in many different ways. They also sensed the discordant energies coming up in what you would call the future of their timing. And so many of them decided to leave, and many of them decided to stay to ride it out and see what they would learn by the experience.
What was their connection to the crystal skulls? Did they input their knowledge into them or help to?
Some of them did, yes, some of them did.
And I'd like to explore my connection with them. Is that through the crystal skulls or beforehand? I've sensed that I've had multiple lives.
Now, you know about that. You haven't had multiple lives.
No, I mean my counterparts have. And so am I tapping into counterparts on other parallel lives that
Sometimes.
So many years ago, I communicated with another channeled entity about this, and he told me that I had been a Maya priest in a parallel life.
All right, and again, you understand that that person exists. It's not you. You haven't been them.
Right.
So that's just a euphemism in an old-fashioned, outdated way of talking about an energetic link and a connection that you make to that person in order to download understanding, information, and experience from them to aid and assist you on your journey here. Yes?
Yes.
All right. So that's what you're doing.
Right. And what's interesting is that many years ago, he said that the lessons I was here to learn from that that counterpart or parallel life is the use of power and using it with gentleness. And,
Yes.
and
Remember, the greatest power requires the lightest touch.
uh-huh.
Yes?
Yes. And
Because it doesn't have to force anything. It doesn't have to force anything.
right. Thank you.
Because it is everything. So this is about understanding not your connection to nature, but your connection as nature, your expression as nature, so that things flow and nothing has to be forced. The greatest power requires the lightest touch. That's why all that is all but invisible.
That makes so much sense. Thank you. I've also been exploring through 23andMe, my ancestry, my DNA.
Yeah.
And I've discovered that I have Neanderthal and DNA.
No, most
And-
of you do.
And are you saying most of humans do, or specific types of humans? For instance, are those
Yeah.
with more Neanderthal being abducted by the Greys for their?
There are variations, and some of them have to do with the idea of the abductions, and some of them don't. There are connections to Denisovans, Neanderthals, Cro-Magnon, all sorts of things. There's a mixture of things going on. Some people have a little more of this and a little less of that. There's a mixture.
That's wonderful. And how are these DNA or genetics determined? Is it our higher self that decides what ones to focus on in a particular life?
Well, again, it is the higher self that sort of lays out the territory, but it's still up to the individual which path to take. And so there can be branching that happens in physical reality that may cause certain differences to occur, that might stray sometimes from the original path or not. But again, it still achieves the diversity that is required for the continuation of the evolution into the sixth hybrid race.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Bashar. I'm very grateful, and I really do love you so much.
Our love to you as well, and our deep appreciation.
Thank you.
Hello, Bashar. My first question to you is, can we feel other people's souls? And if so, have I ever felt somebody's soul?
Well, yes, you can feel the vibration that is given off by the soul, and that is why you say that the windows are the eyes of the soul, because again, there are vibrations that are being presented and given off, and if you match those frequencies, you can certainly experience other people's souls, and the way you more often than not experience that is by suddenly finding yourself being in love with them in one way, shape, or form. Just being in love with someone doesn't necessarily mean how that love has to play out sociologically or culturally, but by feeling yourself falling in love with some aspect of some person in some way, shape, or form, generally speaking, you are feeling the vibrations of their soul, their true self.
Greetings, Bashar.
And to you, good day, good day. What would you like to discuss?
First, I would like to say that I'm grateful for this teachings of this day, because it put more clarity of the stages to go about when something hits me, when something is confronting me. Usually when you said a while ago, it's not what happens to you that matters, but what you do with it matters.
Yes.
This was very, actually a very easy tool to adopt, because when I would dive into why things happen to me, it would go nowhere, because I would have the blame, the pointing
Yes.
finger outside of me.
Yes.
So when you said that, that was very important. But I also want to say that it's actually easy for me
Yes.
to not to dive into the what happened when I know that it happened, but it doesn't matter what happened. It actually become easy for me to just dive in
All right.
and look at myself.
Well, it's all right. Well, good.
So-
Congratulations for using it that way.
Thank you. I'd like to ask you if you don't mind to share with us, if this is, unless you said it before, but I do not know it, what events brought about the Shakana to your people at the time that it did?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, remember that we are, in a sense, an artificially engineered race. Therefore, it was kind of built in to some degree into our genetic path that that would happen someday after we went through certain processes. At the same time, going through those processes gave us the opportunity to develop within ourselves the willingness to allow for more harmony and cohesion by recognizing and validating the differences in each individual. So you could say, in a sense, that we were designed with a penchant to go in that direction, although it was still left up to us as to whether or not to choose to do so, because the ability to choose to do so or not do so is of paramount importance to be engineered into any species, so that you know that whatever it is that does happen is the product of what they chose to have happen, so that they are truly in alignment with it and not just forced to make a choice. Does that answer your question?
It answered to a degree, but so it means that you were ready as a collective to become evolved into the harmony, as far as I understand, that brought about the Shakana.
Yes, we were engineered in a way that made that a very viable choice for us, but it doesn't mean that we had to choose it. It was just easier for us to do so should we go in that direction.
So was it like a committee that came about to announce to the people, this is your time to choose? Or was it just...
No. It was simply a natural thing that happened synchronistically. Remember that we operate on pure synchronism. So it was one of the things that when the synchronicity amplified to that point, it made it obvious that the choice was there for us.
I got you. I don't know.
Remember that the idea of Shakana was actually represented by an individual. So when that individual came about in our society, that was the synchronicity that made it obvious we were going to go in that direction.
I need to contemplate this. You're saying an individual that evolved to a certain level that brought about everybody else with him?
Yes, Shakana was actually an individual, a child that was born. It's similar to the idea of what you call the birth of your Christ or Krishna or Buddha or something like that. But for us, it accelerated us because the child was the symbol of the synchronicity that came together to indicate that we had made a collective choice to go in the direction that we have gone and experience more synchronism and harmony in our reality. So it actually was predicated by the existence of an actual physical child being born in our society that was recognized as the Shakana vibration.
This is magnificent.
In that moment, in the span of what you would call 3 days, we all became telepathically wakened.
This is magnificent. Is it going to happen on Earth as well?
Not quite in the same way. Not quite in the same way, no. It'll happen more on an individual, one-by-one basis, or a collective here, a collective there. Eventually, you'll come into pure synchronism and more telepathic understanding, but it's going to happen a little bit differently for Earth humans because your evolutionary path is different.
I understand. In this, when a Sasani couple decide to have a child, I was reading in the book that you described that they go into a focus, a deep meditation, and they create their own bands, and then the two bands combine to create a third band, and that's where the child is created. So
yes, it's like two energy bubbles that overlap, and in the overlap, the child forms itself.
So was it a long period? I mean, would the parents stay in that meditative state until the child is created and born and materialized?
Yes, but it doesn't take that long. Now remember, this is something that's relatively recent in our history. We used to have children in exactly the same way that you do now. But as we evolved and became less physical, it started to take on this energy form. But it doesn't take that long.
Like in 3 days, in 5 days,
It can take hours. The longest on record has been about 3 days, but it usually only takes several hours.
This is fascinating. This is very fascinating, and I'm so grateful to get such an information, because it's broadened me and so many others who read this, the possibilities of existence, of such an existence. And
Yes.
so when a child is born to your civilization, would the soul need to be in a certain level of evolution to become one of you, because you're so much advanced than?
Generally speaking, yes. There are some exceptions depending on what the soul wishes to experience, but generally speaking, yes, because there are certain experiences that are simply not available in our society that might be available in other societies. So the soul would have to be at least in alignment with the general themes of our planet, and wouldn't necessarily be born on our planet or choose to be born on our planet if it had a theme that was not available to it in our society.
I understand. One more thing about your civilization is, you also, in the book I was reading, that your cities are in spaceship, so you're not contaminating or destroying the earth, the ground itself. Does that mean that there's no dwelling at all?
There are temporary ones for a variety of purposes, like we described the idea that we may have what you call birthing villages that are erected and that function as a place for people to have children for a while, but then they're disassembled. Usually there are no permanent structures, except for a few exceptions that we can go into at another time, but they're few and far between. Most of the planet is natural, and any structures that are built for temporary reasons and then disassembled.
I got you. So I like to move on to the blue man that you mentioned to us in the last transaction.
Yes.
The name blue man is English. So do they have name in their language, even though they're telepathic and they don't speak?
There are members of their society that are physical, but remember that the versions that Earth is interacting with are those that have allowed themselves to shift and become both physicalized and also exist as energy forms. So their own societies, they have their own way of referring to themselves, but we're not really allowed to talk about that at this particular point. What we have shared with you is all we can share with you at this point about them.
I understand it. So I would like still to stay with it, not about their information, but when you said, again, in one of the questions you answered, that we have to align ourselves with the same frequency as they are in order for us to, let's say I want to have the calmness that they have, and I need it at the time. So to become their frequency, this is something that I understand, but I really don't understand. Like, there is times that I will focus very lightly, almost no matter about something, and it manifests for me so easily, or I'm tuning into it so easily.
Because you have a belief system that says it's easy for you to match that frequency, and in other things you have a belief system that says it's not as easy to match that frequency. So some things are going to appear effortless because you have a belief that allows you to allow it to be experienced in an effortless way. You just shift. Nothing is getting in your way. In other areas, there may be things you need to deal with and let go of before you can shift to that frequency. Everyone on your planet has these differences. Some things are easy and some things are challenging.
So matching my frequency would mean focusing on them, focusing on a blue blob. How would I
It's up to you to use your imagination and receive from your higher mind what works best for you as a technique. But again, remember, in general, it still all comes down to following the formula. That's all you actually have to do. Everything else that's relevant will take care of itself and bring you the inspiration and opportunities to do it in the way that works for you most effortlessly. That's why we give you the formula. Then you don't have to break it down into what's the technique for this? What's the technique for that? Just follow the formula. The technique that will work for you will come to you synchronistically.
sometimes, at this time, this is a very unique time right now on Earth.
Yes.
Because sometimes I feel the time is so slow, and sometimes I feel the time is so fast, and it comes and goes throughout the days and the weeks and the
Of
and the
course.
hours.
Because you're creating time. So as you change your consciousness, your perception of time is going to change, because time is a side effect of your consciousness, shifting through different parallel realities. So its pace is completely determined by where your consciousness is focused.
There are times that, like when you're saying, follow your passion, follow your excitement. There are many times at this current time, presently, that it looks so stretchy.
Yes.
Takes long time.
Sometimes that's exactly the time that it needs to take, but you always have the opportunity to investigate your belief systems to see if you can let go of some of them, and letting go of some of them may change the way you experience the timing. You can always narrow it down to just the process you actually need to go through. Sometimes you have extra processes that you don't necessarily need to go through if you will let go of certain beliefs. But it's always only going to go down to whatever the timing is that's absolutely necessary for you to experience in order to more deeply appreciate what it is you are experiencing.
I understand. Well, I thank you so much, Bashar. I love you. I appreciate so much our exchange.
As do we, and our unconditional love to you as well. Good day.
Good day.